like making some serious money. So at the end of
Welcome back to another episode of The Young Startup. Today, we got a gentleman that has been very inspirational to us, for one, and honestly has a great story. He does a lot in his life, and he makes a massive impact in multiple worlds. And I'll get you to share a story here in a second, but Eisa, we appreciate you coming on here, brother. He's from Toronto. He's also in Canada, or I should say Ontario. I'm not entirely sure if you're from Toronto, but Alberta. All said and done, without further ado, if you want to kick things off and introduce yourself, and let us know the multiple lives that you lived. I read your post yesterday, and I saw that. So I think it'd be a great thing to kick off with, and then we'll kind of dive into a lot more of what that looks like in your life.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, guys, for having me on. Super happy to be here. When you texted me 2 weeks ago asking me, if I'd be interested to join a podcast with you, I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, why not? This is the gang to hang out with. So. Yeah, thanks guys for the invitation. Happy to be here. To answer your story, yeah, so I lived in Toronto for a while. I don't even know where to say where I'm from, to be. I don't know where I'm from anymore. I'm from everywhere. A lot. Yeah. As far as roots goes, I mean, my parents are Persian. I never lived in the Middle East. I lived in Sweden. Since I was 6 months old. My parents were there since I was a young little kid. So I was there for 13 years. And then we came to Canada when I was in my teenage years, and Vancouver was technically my Canadian home. But, as I heard both of you say, I mean, I was in Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, Vancouver. I've been everywhere, guys. So I don't know. Citizen of the world. Is that a fair answer as to where I'm from?
Yeah.
My story. Okay. How do we shorten this up so I don't?
We like a long story. It's always
good. So it's kind of going back, I guess, to when I lived in Europe. So, we grew up, my parents, they were refugees in Sweden. So when we started out in Sweden, we didn't have much, right? Like it was just humble beginnings. I remember we had a couch. It was a used couch, and it had a bunch of holes in it. Like that's how far back, my life started in terms of, wow. I was not privileged by any sense of the imagination, right? It was everything has been self-built since that point with the help of networking and everything. So that's where I started. At the age of 13, I was in Canada full-time. English is the second language. You can only imagine what that would be like. You got this Persian kid in Canada, first lick of English. It was, if you've ever seen, the most, I guess, I don't know, the weirdest look ever, I'll tell you this. You got my Persian looks, the Swedish IKEA accent trying to speak English. that was me, right? So
that's so funny.
Anyway, but I learned the language pretty quick when I came to Canada, and unfortunately, 13, my father passed away pretty early in life. So, and being the breadwinner, I got to realize, holy crap, like it really is that sudden where a financial pitfall could happen in your life. I saw, my mom effectively become a single mom, and like the struggles that came associated with that. And that was just before the 2008 financial crisis. So anything she tried recouping before 2008 also got absolutely depleted into basically a massive debt life, right? So debt lifestyle. So, I mean, you could imagine rolling into my late teens, early 20s, I came into it pretty seasoned as to how horrible it can be if you don't have money. Let's just call that what it is, right? I had an avid interest for both flying and music in my younger years. So I picked up, professional drumming, touring for some pretty good acts as early as 18 and 19. So I got to see the, behind the scenes of being around famous people and whatnot pretty quick. So I kind of got to connect with the relationship that, man, everybody is people. It doesn't matter if their net worth is X amount. They're still, they're still people, and they have the same sort of struggles and insecurities that everyone has at some point, right? So, yeah. So that was super fascinating. I also finished my flying licenses by the time I was 18. So as I was waiting to go to work to fly, I was touring, playing music, and drums was my instrument. So I finally got my break in 2009 to start flying. And it didn't take long to realize that this flying career was heavily reliant upon playing the game right. Like there's a lot of money in flying. There's a lot of pilots tell you there's not a lot of money in flying. There is a lot of money in flying, but it's about who you hang out with, who likes you, and who's going to give you the keys to the next lock in terms of your career. And it definitely felt like a lottery to me. Like, to me, it was a gamble if I was going to make it or not in that industry, and it was apparent very quickly. So I didn't like the feeling of that, knowing what I had just gone through. Like, having just gone through that just 5-6 years prior, with my father, and seeing how quickly a financial turmoil can cause instability in your life. I didn't like the thought of another massive level of instability with my career, even though the probability was there to make it. So I said, you know what? Let me find out where the 1% hang out. Effectively, that was my biggest quest. I don't want to ever feel the pain of no money. So to me, the only place that with consistency you have let's just call it the elite or the super wealthy, they're in the stock market. And even today, you hear a massive craze going on about crypto and whatnot, and you still have that war between, is it crypto, is it stock market? It's, I don't know, the big money is still sitting in the stock market. We can probably have a healthy debate about whether that's an opinion that most believe in or not, but they do. And I just want to give you a little rhetorical point on that. The reason I say that is anyone you talk to who speaks about crypto speaks about in terms of dollars, which means they're not talking about crypto. They're talking about dollars still, which is the capital market. It's not the crypto market. So anyway, so going back to that, so I started dabbling. This would be 20, 21 years of age, young Eisa, chip on his shoulders with regards to money a little bit. You got to imagine to kind of come into this like a bit of a broken soldier, let's just call it that, right?
Yeah.
Disappointed at how much politics is involved in making in my career. So this was really going to be my outlet. And I made a commitment to myself that I'm either going to make it with this, or this is like, I'm not going back to instability in my life. I need to make it with this. So that started about I want to say about like a 5-year journey of just constantly losing money. Just not making a single dollar, like in terms of net results, not making any money. And it was super frustrating because you would see the moves that happen in the market. You would see when a stock triples in a matter of 2 hours. You would see all these types of things that you're like, man, if I just could capture that, so much would be different in my life. What's going on, and how can I be ahead of that game and be there before it runs, and all that sort of stuff that people always wonder about. So it kind of strike two things in my life. The first thing was about the relationship I had to have with the money, with the performance. I couldn't get on a massive high when I make money. I couldn't get overly upset when I lose money. I had to fix that, because if that, like, I could tell you with consistency, the first 3.5 years, that was the roller coaster I was on. I almost addicted to the feeling of making money and like losing money. It was a really weird place to be. So that had to get solved. And the second thing that had to get solved is understanding that how I was behaving in the market effectively represents 90-95% of people, which is why you hear the masses complain that this is a gamble. This game is not at all, functional. It's rigged, or whatever they say, right? So I had to learn that, and it became very apparent to me after spending about 3.5-4 years that no, there is a consistency to this game. There is a principle to why prices do what they do. There is a principle to why people behave the way they do, and I think if anybody was observant enough in the, let's just call it, last 24 months, I think we see what fear can do to people's behavior and what they end up doing as a result. So knowing that and actually getting intensely interested in that is what turned my game around in the market, to the point so now where we're talking 12 years later, I've extracted my dream life from the stock market. It's something that I've been coaching for coming up, we're 4.5 years now almost of coaching this game to other people. And my target typically has been professionals, because I know the pain that professionals feel when it comes to politics. I know that, they know they have to navigate the landmines to succeed. So my target has been helping professionals leave that train of thought. And what I've found has happened is as they get, when they get the knowledge as to, wow, this is totally life changing, and I can become self-sufficient. I don't really need my boss to worry about money anymore. Then they go back to loving what they do, or just altogether quitting in that career, right? So it's a massive shift in how this changed their lives. And a lot of what I do now, just to answer your question, what am I doing these days? Well, I kind of wear different hats, guys. So right now I'm a captain on Airbus 320 out of Bermuda. joining senior executive management as well to oversee, training and making sure that somehow spills down in the business efficiency of the company. I got my own coaching program, which I teach people about the stock market, not just that, but also tax efficiency and corporation structures, and really how to understand how the code works in terms of how this money code works. And then as well, side by side of that, when I get time, I get calls, I can't say regularly because they know I'm busy, and there's also some really good drummers as well in the market that I'm in. But I regularly do get calls for gigs and whatnot, around the US or Canada. I haven't been to Europe drumming yet, but some opportunities are looking like they might present themselves soon as well to do some, big style gigs as well. So kind of I don't know, it's a jack of all trades, but I feel like that's a little bit of an understatement, because I feel like a jack of all trades sometimes doesn't accomplish anything in life, but I feel like I do have 3 dominions that things do get accomplished. So
Yeah,
I don't know what to call that. And then just a quick little tidbit of my personal life. A lovely fiance. Her name is Brittany. She's a nurse. Even though she doesn't have to work, she's out there fighting the fight, and that's her thing. So she's got her identity with that, and we're engaged, and here we are, guys.
yeah. I love, man. You were talking around, for example, professionals realizing that they don't need to, work for someone else, and they can live a life on their own terms, so that they can go back to doing what they love. You know what I mean? You're a prime example of that. You're doing drumming, you're still flying, but you don't need to do any of those things because you are financially free. I know how wealthy you are. I know how much real estate properties and things along those lines you are, and you're so humble when it comes to it. Well, first of all, kudos. And second of all, I just wanted to make that apparent for everyone that is listening that, he's a walking example of what he's talking about. That, even myself and Eric, when we got into a position of financial freedom, we've been able to do a lot of the things that we were not able to do when we were working 14-hour days, grinding and making money for someone else, building someone else's vision as opposed to our own. So we can also definitely resonate with you when it comes to that.
Yeah, when money is no longer the worry or your stress, because everybody, in my opinion, typically has a bad relationship with money until they start to earn it, start to feel what that feels like. But when you realize that there's so much of it that you can, there's an abundance of money, and when you do finally become financially free, you're able to enjoy the things that actually matter. Like, I'm spending more time with family now. I'm spending I want to be able to work 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. Right? All of these different things, like, I'm buying my life back, right? Money is no longer the worry. But yeah, man, I love your story. It's inspiring because those are 3 completely different buckets. And I love, you mentioned that you started recently working with this new company. You told them exactly what you do on the side, and they were accommodating to that as well. One thing that I picked up when you were talking about your story is, like, you talked about networking. When you were in that industry of flying, it was very much so, well, number one, there was money in it, but people don't think that there is. But it was very much so, who do you know? And, like, are you talking and being around the right people? I'd love for you to talk more about that. And what did that look like in an industry like that? Because obviously in business, that's so important. Your network is your net worth, or your net worth is your network.
Yeah, I've heard that one before. Yeah. I'm just, being totally open with you guys about this. And I know your viewers hopefully will appreciate this. It's a little bit delicate for me to tell you my point of view, because I kind of think that, the ones who made it in this industry that I'm in, they might not agree with what I'm saying, because they you know what I mean? They might say, no, that's not all how this works. But after 10, 15 years of being now in that dominion, they come to the same realization. I'll tell you why. Some of the most senior pilots in this country, and I'm just gonna, am I okay to name names, or you guys want to leave that out?
Yeah,
No,
okay.
absolutely.
Senior captains and first officers at Air Canada, Air Transat, WestJet are realizing 10, 15, 20 years later that this ain't the game that I thought it was going to be, right? So they'll agree with what I'm telling you right now. But the guys who are maybe 5 years in, like, no, that's not how this works. So let me tell you about this, guys. There is a big saying in our industry which goes against the rhetoric of what flying should be in terms of being responsible for people's safety. And the big saying is, don't burn any bridges. But let me say something. In order to make it to the top in the industry, you have to keep your mouth shut. You dare not ruffle any feathers. You dare not point out that there's airplanes about to break down and, maybe kill passengers or have some sort of an incident. Now, that being said, am I bashing companies in aviation? No, I'm not. What I'm saying though is in order to make it in this career, you cannot be a difference maker. You got to put your head in line in a row and be a very good employee. That's how you make sure that your boss is going to give you that reference letter so that the next company, when they do a reference check, actually hires you and so forth. And, I just don't believe in that, because to me, for such a progressive activity such as flying that relies on, so much logistics going to a flight pushing back on time, to have, for lack of better terms, shut up and get on with your day mentality, it reeks of just massive destruction. And you know how that destruction comes out? When guys finally make it, they're at the top of their game and they're like, is this it? Is this all that I sucked up to all these different people, didn't stand for my ground, didn't stand up for what I believe in, didn't actually, they don't get identities in this industry. You know what I mean, guys? They don't actually become themselves. They become what they're supposed to be. They don't become who they are. And then they get to the top and they're like, this can't be what I sacrificed so much for. And I know that even they might not say it, deep down, this is how 95% of them feel. And you know how it comes out? It comes out in the conversations. We're sitting in 15 hours in cruise and the conversations come out. And if they don't admit to it, they're usually just trying to justify about their beach houses and their sports cars as to why their life is so great, but deep down, it's not. So to answer your question, how does it work? The way it works is you cannot come into this industry expecting to ruffle feathers, because somebody will be offended. Someone's ego will be, taken by it the wrong way, and they will effectively put locks in your career. And that to me is such unaligned way to be a professional. It is. It's not in alignment with what I think you're able to do as someone who has a skilled work. So that was the big thing that stood out to me. Side by side of that, I think that, I can only speak for flying, but some of the most genuine, beautiful souls are also in this profession, that if just given the hope that there is another way, they'll jump at it, but they're skeptical, right? Because all they know is, well, I have to stay in line for the last 20 years, and how can I believe that there's actually another system out there? That's the hardest part.
I resonate like crazy with that, honestly. Like when we were working, and there was a couple things. When we were working in our corporate role, I think in any kind of corporate organization, you do need to like fake it till you make it, essentially. And then when you start to become more of a person of influence, and they start to ease off on you. But all said and done, to kind of bring back our story and put that into perspective as well. Within our first 3 years, we worked through 3 promotions. We were doing multiple 6 figures in annual salary with commissions, of course. And it got to a point where we were no longer being micromanaged. We were oversawn by executive leadership. They gave us tons of praise. We created a massive legacy within the organization. But at the same time, there was still this gut feeling within us that something wasn't right. And that's when we started to explore other opportunities that would give us more freedom, that would give us more control, but that would still have and create a lot of influence, similar to those people of higher leadership within an organization, but will allow you to get to that place of influence, of power much sooner. And that's where Amazon came into play. We got to a point where we were able to leave our corporate jobs. And now looking back, we haven't even been 2 years self-employed now. We are we are people of influence now. The people that we grew up with, for example, they always neglected us. So this is another thing I'd love to chat with you about, because I know the flying, a flying career is crazy when it comes to, commitment, time. Spending time with, balance essentially is what it comes down to. With us, we were working 10 to 14-hour days, and we were spending little time with our friends and family, to the point where they became more of a acquaintance as opposed to a friend within who used to be a very good friend. And because of that, a lot of people neglected us. They didn't like us anymore. But now that we're in a position where, one, we have more time, we have more freedom, and we're living a life on our own terms, those same people are coming back to us now, and they're like, damn, like, get me into this. I wish I got into this sooner. Right? So I'd love you to chat about, how did you balance that? Because again, you were talking about 15-hour flights, for example. Like I feel like that's a very demanding job. Maybe not demanding from a physical standpoint, but demanding from a time standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the number one complaint that you'll see with guys and girls, and I guess, you know, everyone, not just gender specific, but everyone will complain about this at one point or another. They're gone, right? And you know, at first, the idea of being in a hotel room in Paris and going out for a beer at 5 o'clock and having a, you know, steak and fries and, you know, maybe some croissants for dessert sounds great, but I think anyone that has experienced even a little bit of advancement in anything in their lives will relate to this. It gets boring quick. After where you just start, you know, asking what's the point of all this? Like you start questioning, is this really all that life is about? I'm supposed to come to, you know, London today and Venice tomorrow and whatever, right? And is that it? So yeah, to answer your question, it's a bit of a, I want to think about this one because
Yeah, no problem.
Because the way I see it, man, is if you live for a life of significance, right? Like you want to matter by the time that you're done, your last breath. Like you want to say that your life mattered. It ironically doesn't come from these possessions and the statuses that effectively sit around you. And I've come to find that. And you talked about earlier, it's fascinating to you how humble I am. I mean, in my mind, I don't that's not even a thought. It's just, to me, having this many properties and this and that and investments here like that was okay, cool. But like, how about the person inside, right?
Yeah.
And I think there comes a crossover at one point there, where you need to you know, seek for more in life than money. And I kind of feel like I'm speaking to, you know, to like a teenager audience right now. It's like, but I just want the money right now. But no, like once you get the money, then what? What's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you here to just self-indulge? Because I mean, listen, man, I've lived that life of where I was very selfish with money and, you know, hoarding it. And I'm talking about that relationship with money, right? Like hoarding it and just making it all about me. And it's so fascinating how quickly it started flying out the window and not being replenished when I was in that train of thought, and vice versa. Yeah. You know, people called me all the you know, words in the dictionary when I was just spending not on stupid stuff, but spending on growing people, spending on developing another, let's say, a project, something that was going to help others. When that was the nature of the expenditure, like right now, I'm basically sponsoring a golf player. He's going pro soon, right? So when there's development of others and you're lifting others with you, I can't speak to this energy enough where it just seems to replenish in 10 or 20x, 30x of what you spent almost. So, so what I think is you need to seek for meaning beyond the money. I'd say that's what it is. That like once, so once you even get to answer your question, like once you get to the top of your career, the same thing happens. Now you're sitting there, you're flying 400 people across the world for 12 hours, but now what's the point?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know. Does that answer your question at all, man? Like, I don't know if I feel like I'm kind of getting a roundabout answer, but
No. Absolutely.
Good depth of the story. No, and I talked about this yesterday. We actually did a show yesterday, and a principle I talked about is like, you need to have a bigger vision in life. You need to have a purpose in life, because when you get the money, you need to be working to something else. You need something to get you out of bed, right, at the end of the day. So, no, I resonate with that, you know, really, really well.
Well, there's that thing called, I don't think people realize it. It sounds kind of, I think, interesting, but it's called wealth depression. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that before or gone through that, where you're just like, man, what's my hustle now? Like, yeah. I don't have to wake up because everything is there.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's huge. People don't think of that. And I think if you can have that vision in the beginning, it just makes the process so much more streamlined.
Yeah, 100%.
And for everyone that's listening, I think that is, Eisa is very wise, and he's gone through this. And Eric and I experienced this very early as well. But all said and done, like, just know that, you know, money doesn't solve all the problems in the world. It really comes down to what you're here to do. So understanding what that definite major purpose is in your life, and by all means, that might evolve over time. And I'm sure it's evolved like crazy for you. But work towards something and have an end goal in mind, so that you know that there is going to be a journey. There was this quote. I'm gonna try to say it, but it's if you don't enjoy the process of getting to a goal, you'll never enjoy the goal itself.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I 100% like that's a good quote.
The pain, the adversity, similar to your story as well. Like you had that really bad relationship. That's all part of the journey, right? Like we learn from what we do wrong. We learn from what we do right, right? I always say in life, it's, we're always going to get data. Regardless, if we take action, we will get data. It's either we get data that is, I'm not going to say bad, but data that is something that we can improve on, or data that we should continue doing or continue doing, or just make that much better. Yeah. And that right there is a philosophy that I live in life, because at the end of the day, what you do, you will always learn from.
Yeah,
regardless.
Absolutely. Can I just say something? And I hope that your viewers understand the message behind what I'm saying. You know how the massive rhetoric and narrative around the stock market is it's a gamble. I mean, I think everyone can agree that that's what everyone says about it, right? But you know what's fascinating to me is the same contestants that say that assume that life in itself isn't. They assume that when they go to bed tonight that they're going to wake up tomorrow. Like there's a lot of unconscious rhetoric around that saying that the stock market wakes you up to. You know what I call the market, guys? I call the stock market life 10x the speed. That's all it is. Because and if you look at most people, and I mean this, I genuinely mean this from a place of love, and I've been this person that I'm about to explain to you guys right now. So I want you to understand this is not a bash. Truly me, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, let's say, 10 to 12 now. Guys, most people aren't good at life.
Yeah.
That's the realistic truth. And it reflects in their bank account, right?
100%.
And I think that what the stock market does is it just shows you how bad you are with decisions and how emotional you are with money. And if you can master that, like guys, if you can master that game, it's going to come out in every area of your life, because all of a sudden you're awakened to the consciousness of how you're making decisions. Right? And money is such a beautiful instrument to do that, because it is the most desired, concept for most people in this world. And it makes people hustle. Listen, this money thing makes people get out of bed.
Yeah.
So to take that now and put that into a line, a graph that now, could be life-changing for you, or could deplete you, let's just call it for what it is just life. It's the same gamble as you getting into your car, driving to work, and getting crushed by a truck on the way to work. It's the exact same gamble, but can you manage it and avoid it? Yeah, maybe not fly through a four-way intersection. Maybe come to a stop first, right? Those are those consciousnesses I'm talking about, guys. Yeah. When the professionals that I work with, I'll tell you the typical timeline of a professional who comes into my program: skeptical, but is curious enough to investigate into my program, but skeptical. Gets a breakthrough. It's like, oh my God, this is a game changer. Starts believing.
Yes.
Doesn't match his personality with that identity, because this can't be true. This changed the name of the game for the last 20 years. I've been, grinding it in a different system for the last 20 years. And then they start self-sabotaging. Like, this can't be true. Then they start doing gambling. They start getting into a mindset that is not what made them money in the first place. And everything gets depleted. They come back to what? This doesn't work. It does work. It's the internal that needs to be fixed. So I don't know. I just wanted to speak to that.
I love that.
That's a very important part.
Yeah. I love that. Everything in life, it comes in two phases. One, it starts in the mind, it starts internally, and then two, it actually happens in life. So the way that you can talk to yourself, what you say to yourself, the way that you approach things, how you analyze things internally first, is always going to make a significant impact on how it actually comes in to real life as well.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I love that.
I just wanted to put that in. That's an important piece that it doesn't matter. If they're an Amazon business, they're doing the stock market, they're doing drop shipping, whatever you're doing, doesn't matter.
It all relates, yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's all up in how good are you at life? And if you're not, the business will show you right away. I mean, how much did you guys have to grow, right, to start your business and develop it to where you're at today? You have to grow as people. It's just it's the only way that it happens.
Yep. Yeah. Grow the people, and the people will grow the business. It's all about investment. And one thing I hear this all the time. I heard it yesterday again. But when you're in your 20s, like, invest as much as you can into yourself, into taking risks, because this is the time to be able to do it. And that is predominantly probably more of our audience right now as well. So a lot of people are hoarding all this money, and they're losing money by having it in a high interest savings account, because inflation is 5%. it's not doing you any good. Like, take the risk, learn something, learn a high income generating skill of some sort, whether it's selling on Amazon, whether it's sales, it could be anything. But at the end of the day, do something with your money that will make you more money. And that's how you can create wealth and create a mindset of wealth as well. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I'll say something here, and then if you guys have another question, we can go to that. I don't want to keep circling on the same thing. Unless you want to keep riffing on this, we can keep talking about it. But
Yeah.
let me tell you something, guys. Wherever you have massive agreements, guys, the contestants usually end up broke. So if you have massive agreement that the middle class system is the way to go, and educational systems, you got to go into school and do this and go down a career and suck up to your boss and be all by good, all that stuff. It doesn't usually end well. And it's I think something like the pandemic that happened, cool. I guess that sucks that we had such a divide and such a weird outcome from people on it. But I think I highlighted one very good inefficiency in what people are like. And it showed that the narrative of safe and secure, it's an illusion. It's never safe and secure. You just think it is. That's all it is.
Yeah,
100%.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about the pandemic and how that affected you, because obviously flying was a thing of the past as soon as we got all shut down and all locked down into everything. And I know that's when I believe from our previous conversations, that's when you really started growing your coaching brand, coaching company and program and everything along those lines. When that happened, how did that impact your life? And what did you do in a scenario like that? Like, what was your mindset when you're, and I don't know if you got laid off or whatever it was, but like, how did that impact you?
Yeah, good question. I think it was kind of, in a weird way, bad timing, because from an optics point of view, it kind of looked like I got laid off, so I needed to run a coaching business. So people are like, oh, so this is what you need now. Is that why you're posting all of a sudden out of nowhere? And no, it's very good they asked that question. So, I mean, guys, the financially free life, it's been going on pretty much, I'd say 2017, 2018 now. Like it's been now six years, or 6 years. Holy crap, that's a lot. So, and when I started, that's to be 2018 or so. Yeah, when I started just teaching friends and family around me and seeing how that impacted them, it created like I don't know, it was an emotion internally that it's probably a selfish emotion, but I started feeling like, you know what, this feels right. There's something about elevating someone else with knowledge that I've got that actually resonates with my identity and what I think I should be doing more of, in my time here. So it's almost like this was being, rehearsed for the moment, like the pandemic, where it didn't almost matter what sort of job you had. I mean, for sure, in the travel and tourism sector, like myself and a lot of my peers, everyone got wiped out. I mean, even if they didn't get wiped out in terms of jobs, their salaries got cut in half. Everything, their retirement got thrown up for a loop. Everything, the whole narrative got totally scrutinized, and this was called, for lack of better terms, it blew up. So what that did, I would say, is it gave me this point of inspiration, motivation. I don't know what it was. I think this came external to me, like it was almost a calling. Like, man, you've been on this narrative and you've been doubted for pretty much a decade on what you've been saying. Most of the professionals that I would talk about this in the flight deck with my colleagues. You could believe I did, but nobody would take action with learning this skill because, man, we'll see, I'm doing pretty good. That's kind of, human nature likes to get away with things, right? And if I don't have to put too much effort into making money, then why would I learn something new? And I can't tell you to what extent it felt like an aha moment. In a very paternal way, I kind of feel like it was, I told you so. Like that happened, right? But secondary to that, I can't tell you, to what level it meant to me to be able to help people out of it. Out of this rut they got stuck in. Because here you had a lot of, in my case, a lot of airline pilots who had, decent sized portfolios, decent sized money, but they were probably going to lose it if they didn't go back to work, within 6 months to a year sort of thing, right? So learning a skill to know what to do with your money was paramount for them. They had to learn something. Otherwise, the delay, this took 2 years, right? So a lot of them did get wiped out. A lot of them had to sell their houses. Think about this, airline captains going back home with their moms, like 75 years old.
Oh my God.
Right? That's not the world that you envisioned.
No.
So to answer your question, how this impacts my coaching business, I think there was a massive influx of interest, obviously.
Yep.
The big divider though was I put a psychological block in front of people when they work with me, and that's the amount it takes to work with me. And because if you want something for nothing, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna pitch the narrative, come in here with $1,000 and see what's gonna happen. You're gonna lose. That's what's gonna happen. I can tell you right now, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So to work with me is, it's, as you guys know, it's expensive. But what that does from a psychological stance is it truly shows me that the person's betting on themselves.
Yeah.
When you show me you bet on yourself, I'm there for you. If you're not going to bet on yourself, I can't help you.
Yeah.
So that I think that put a bit of a block as to the number of people I could have actually helped. Because I'm telling you, people are like, well, Eisa, why don't you do it for free? You have all this money, all that stuff. I mean, that's normally where the sort of lowest vibrational frequency gets offended. Why aren't you in the position of power doing it for free? And I always come back to the same thing with them. Listen, I could teach you this, but your state of mind is going to ruin it. So if I come and teach you this, all you're going to do is 6 months later come back and tell me it doesn't work. So it's a complete waste of time.
Wow.
As opposed to the person who's like, you know what, I'm in a bad spot, but man, this is not my identity. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to do this. They come out on the other end, successful, understanding, great attitude, and just a vision for what they're doing. They're actually here to change their freaking lives. They're not here just for a quick fix Band-Aid to make $100 or $2,000 or $20,000 in the market. So I feel like I was a little bit misunderstood by some of my peers, and during the pandemic. To answer your question, they felt a little bit entitled to me having to help them out, and a lot of them they ended up sitting on my stance and probably being offended at first on it, but a lot of them came back. And as far as the coaching business, yeah, guys, it's done really good in terms of the business side, but I think that's just a reflection of the number of people's lives it's helped. To me, and you guys know this as well. This coaching business is not a need. It's there to help people, but it's not helped through a handout. It's there to actually help them. You understand what I'm saying? So
100%.
So I think that's the way that coaching. We can talk about the coaching business from the pandemic. That's how it was impacted. Really good in terms of number of people we're helping, but it also did a good job weeding out people who are looking for a handout.
For sure.
You get massive results. So
yeah, and but by the sounds of it is, with the pandemic, you saw it as an opportunity to help others, because you know that other people would be in a lot of terrible financial situations at the end of the day. And we took a very similar approach with us. And trust me, we get this asked all the time. Why are you coaching if you're doing so well in the Amazon market? Well, first of all, I think it comes from a couple different things. It's one, not being selfish, and two, coming from a place of abundance and understanding that there is so much market share, there's so much of the pie that can be shared, that if you teach it, you will have that humbling feeling of helping and changing lives. And that goes back to essentially your definite purpose, having a vision for whatever you're doing, and kind of going through that. So yeah, man, I resonate a lot with that. And when you're talking about, I love your approach on the front end, and we take a very similar approach from a psychological barrier. And I'd like to just say one thing: in order to grow, you need to be uncomfortable. So if that means spending money, if that means being pushed by someone else, that's the only way that you're going to grow. If it's easy, you're not going to grow at the end of the day. So
we always find, we have people that talk to us all the time, and obviously our program is expensive for people to do it as well. But again, you need to fit a certain criteria to work with us, and any coach knows this, right? If you have somebody that comes and pays you, 10 payments over 10 months, well, they have, 1 foot out of the door already, right? It's a psychological thing. We find the people that work with us, and I've talked to so many coaches about this, but the people who are able to make that investment right away, in full, whatever it looks like, they do the best because they're fully committed and they know that they're doing this for a reason, and that reason is for them to change their output, their aspect of how they approach anything.
And that's why we also put a 6-month cap on our coaching as well, because if we gave them a year, if we gave them 2 years, that would be exactly. They would take too long, and that's not what it's about. If you commit, you go full force, and you at the end of the day, take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of your eyes, and try not to create those excuses, that devil voice in your head trying to tell you otherwise. So
yeah.
I think it's like, and I think, guys, anytime you want to do something, it seems to be that you're always going to be met with some form of pushback, like a test of actually, are you going to pull through with it, right? And I always say this, whenever you're met with any decision, that's literally any decision, something as simple as coming to a stop sign. I mean, that's the most simplest form of what I can explain with this example, but you're always going to decide out of fear or out of faith. It's a fork in the road, and I feel like anytime I talk about faith, people are like, oh, this guy must be religious. No, not at all. That's not at all what this is. This is actually understanding that there is a much bigger piece to how things work out that you're not actually in control of. And I think that's what the biggest thing this last 24 months, I think, showed everyone, that, it forced people to pivot. That's all it was. It forced you to become creative, where the impossible actually became possible. And now, yes, you are out of a job, even though you worked for 20 years in that career. You're out. So now what are you going to do, right? Like, what is your pivoting? What are you going to accomplish? What is the purpose of everything? You know what's so interesting, guys, is I know a lot of people who after having gone through the last year and a half, they're back in their old corporate jobs and they're like, I'm not digging this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating change. I think this is a massive call out to business owners like us on what actually retains people's interest these days. And I think it's totally the mindset of, being taken care of, being in a place where you're growing with people. Growth, I think, is number one thing people want. They don't want to be stagnated. And I think authenticity in how they're treated. Because, guys, I can tell you, I was just going through a round of interviews. We're doing both flight deck and cabin crew recruitment for this company that I joined. And it's so fascinating. I have resume stacks from these big companies, people that would sell their life away to work there. And they're like, you know what? I'm looking for a family feel company. I'm looking for a place where I'm not a number anymore. I'm known by first name basis. Guys, this is huge. This is a shift. Like, we're talking, guys are walking away from multi-million-dollar net worth status.
Wow.
Because of how they feel. So I think there's a massive call to action for anyone like us or anyone who is in this space to not just look at this as, I'm going to learn the stock market and I'm going to be a selfish person with money. Or I'm going to learn Amazon and I'm just going to be selfish. How are you going to create opportunities for people?
Yeah,
there it is.
Does that make sense? I think we're on the same page with that, right?
100%.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge to me.
100%. Yeah, we we did a team meeting, and I know you probably run much leaner than we do, but we have a lot of different aspects of the business that we have specialized roles in now. We did a team meeting. It was like last week, and we had the majority of our team. There was over 25 people, and we were like, wow, I didn't think a year ago that I'd be hiring 25 people to support what we're able to do, which is awesome. One of our biggest visions in life, or part of our vision in life, is being able to give back to family, and also being able to hire family in the Philippines, because they're not as fortunate as we are out there. Current state, we already have 2 cousins working for us as people that work in support roles for our coaching business, our Amazon businesses as well. And we have a heck of a lot more family out there to be able to hire as well. So we're excited, and that feels good as a CEO, as the boss, being able to create opportunities for people. There's no better feeling than that, in my opinion. You're making impact at a new level, and you won't be able to experience that until you do something that you can actually grow a team with. So
yeah. And here's something I just want to add to that, just guys. I think this economy, because effectively the crash that we've had in this money war that's going on, and you're hearing it right now, crypto markets, all that stuff. What it's screaming and pointing to is this next economy, if it's going to be sustainable, it's going to be inclusive. So that effectively means you cannot have contestants that are left outside of it. Right? So that's a call out to people like us. That's all that is. Because we're coming in. You guys are younger than I am, but the generation of business owners that are coming in, guys, this has to be an inclusive economy. And I think anybody listening to this, if you resonate with what I just said there, that right there, if that makes your hair stick up a little bit on your arms, like what I just said, everyone is included in this. Man, is it cool that the veteran's walking down to -30 right now asking for $2? Is that actually okay? It's not. I personally, I don't really care what circumstances brought in there, but as a human being, no way is that supposed to be acceptable. So I think that if, let's say, the powers that charge us taxes aren't going to fix that, it's on to people like us that do. It really is.
Absolutely.
You know, and
Amen.
I think people with money is you have authority. That's it. They have authority, so you can influence change. So let's start making some good changes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Love that, man.
It's, Eric chatted about the opportunity that we've been able to give within our team, but it's also the opportunity that we've been able to build and give for all the students of the coaching program, of the university, even more so is what I like to call it, because, in a way, none of this stuff is taught in school, right? It's all untraditional, so to speak, and it is, in my opinion, going to reshape the way traditional education is formed. It's going to present a lot more opportunities for young individuals early on, which kind of leads me to my next point. To cap things off, we always like to ask Eisa, looking back at your younger self, people that are wanting to get into business, what's the one, and you gave a ton of crazy good advice today, by the way, but what is the biggest piece of advice that you would give someone that, maybe is, just getting out of school, high school, or even just getting out of post-secondary school, that you would give to them in order to, live the life on their own terms and a life of their own dreams?
Yeah, good question. I'm going to go back to what I kind of pointed out a little bit earlier about every decision you make is a fork in the road, and the fork in the road is fear or faith, right? Fear falls into the system. So you have a system. It's a box. Everybody's there. They're buying their RSPs. They're getting their 5% down on property and getting mortgages, right? That's that system. That system is the masses. So if you're going to the masses to get confirmation bias that you're going to be okay doing something completely different, you won't get it. So what I'm going to say to you is don't listen to doubts. If there is a vision in your mind somewhere that, like, you know what, I see this outcome in my life, actually go after it. And if you're, especially being young, if your parents, even your parents might not believe in you, your closest friends might not believe in you. Mm-hmm. I'm the guy. Okay, so the guy, for example, right now I've got a 25-year-old I'm putting through to become a pro golfer. You know how much doubt he's being faced with? Oh, I have 50 guys in my club that shoots better than he does or scores better. So what? There is so much more that goes into the development of a person like that knows all that and still goes after it than the person that says, yeah, you know what, the odds are I won't make it, then it's not going to do it. Yeah. So what I would say to someone who's young and maybe even a younger version of myself, I listened to myself when people doubted me, and it worked out. You guys listen to yourselves, even though there's doubts, and it worked out. Mm-hmm. Then why on earth should they ever listen to their doubts? Yeah. That's my question for them.
Love it. I love it.
That's it.
Love it, man. Well, hey, appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome. Yeah, Eisa, one thing we always like to do as well is pimp yourself out. Where can people find you? Where can they contact you? Just the best way of getting a hold of you if you want to share.
Yeah, you bet. The easiest way would be probably through Facebook. You can find me at facebook.com/Eisa Emami. Add me as a friend, send me a message. That'd be a great way to just get the conversation started, even if this is just something you want to maybe just learn more about. You'll find that that's cool. If you want a bunch of free training, my website, Omnificent Dev, that's OMNIFICENTDEV.ca. Tons of just, free education, not time wasting webinars, but webinars where you walk away after 2 hours and you're like, man, I look at things differently now, stuff like that, right? So that's on the website. And if you decide to get in touch with me, then I have a ton of free material I can send on top of that as well. So that's what you want. And on that token too, guys, what I will say is if anyone is interested in working with me, just understand one thing: like, money won't be the motivation and why we're going to work together, right? Like, you need to be here to want to change your life. And if that's the case, reach out to me. And I'd love to have that conversation with anyone that wants to have that chat.
Love it, man. Appreciate it. Thanks again for coming on. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.